Racial discrimination, or racism, is an issue that has been around for quite a while and is still seen in our world today. Racial discrimination has been around for a long time, and one of the earliest forms was slavery, which began in the early 1800s. During the slave trade, slaves were shipped in boats from Africa to Great Britain, where they were faced with brutal treatment. The brutal treatment ranged from being forced to do work in horrible conditions to being beaten to death. In 1865, slavery was abolished by the 13th Amendment. However, racial discrimination still had not ended, and blacks were still not treated nearly as equally as whites. The black people were still taunted and disliked by white people, and additionally, they were paid much less and lived in way poorer conditions compared to whites, despite being free from slavery. So, although slavery was abolished, blacks and people of color were still being treated unequally compared to whites. This continued further on into the mid-1900s, where racial discrimination probably shined the most and is most commonly known about. In the 1950s came segregation of whites and blacks, where the people of color were divided from the whites. They were divided under the basis of separate but equal. It sounds alright, but it was just another way of saying that the whites and blacks had the same public facilities to go to, and the black facilities were of worse quality and condition. For example, the buses, public restrooms, and other places for blacks were in worse conditions than those of white people. Taunting and name-calling continued as well. During the Civil Rights Movement, which happened in the 1960s, black activists and people of color protested and fought for equality and freedom through nonviolence and sit-ins. The Civil Rights Act of 1964 and Voting Rights Act of 1965 additionally gave people of color more freedoms, including making it easier to vote and getting rid of discrimination on the basis of race. So yes, racial discrimination has come a long way, but it is still a common issue. An example of a recent current event where racial discrimination was seen was when 2 black men were arrested in a Starbucks for not purchasing anything. Chances are that had the men been white, they would not have been arrested or treated in the same way they were. Additionally, it is a fact that people that are of black or Hispanic descent have a higher unemployment rate than whites, and that people who do the lower paying job and more tough jobs, such as construction and lawn mowing, are done by those of Hispanic and blacks. But all in all, racial discrimination has improved by a long shot since the beginning of slavery. It is 2018, and racial discrimination is still seen today. All of us are the same, equal, and united as one, meaning that one's race should not define who they are, how they live, or the way that they are treated.